everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I'm Jody Grunwald. Have you ever asked yourself the question, what does my heart want and need right now? And are you taking steps to follow that path? Floyd Jones, this week's guest, speaks to this as well as blooming where you are planted. We hear about his dad's impact coming from Sierra Leone, where he taught Floyd to lead while doing good. Floyd is the Director of Community and Partnerships for Give Butter and founder of Back Black. There is so much inspiration shared in this episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel or stream this podcast on all streaming sites. And please don't forget to leave a review. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day, Live It. Have a great week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I am Jody Grunwald, and every week I get to interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are just disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And today I have Floyd Jones with me. Hi, Floyd. How are you?
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. So honored to be here and chat more with you today.
Well, I'm so honored that you're here, and I'm going to tell everybody in a minute how I even found you. But before I do that, I always like to read a little bit from your bio so that everybody knows a little bit about who you are. Floyd Jones serves as the Director of Community and Partnerships at Give Butter, the world's first completely free end-to-end fundraising platform powering $7 million plus in donations per year from millions of changemakers, which is what we're talking to and what we're talking about today, where he supports the community team's growth strategy via partnerships, sponsorships, strategic campaigns, and special events. Throughout his career, Floyd has worked tirelessly on building social impact communities around the world, collectively raising over $20 million for grassroots organizations and speaking at over 50 conferences across America. His work and content has been featured on ESPN, Afrotech, LinkedIn, Variety, and Wired Magazine, and has been sponsored by, get this, Nike, Whole Foods, Visa, NBA 2K, and more. Floyd is also a pioneer for social justice, and I can't wait to talk more about this. In 2023, he founded Back Black, a multi-platform initiative that has raised over $1.3 million for 770 Black-led nonprofits. And in addition to working at Give Butter, Floyd serves as a business coach for nonprofits and purpose-driven companies to help them scale their community-led growth strategy. And I have to tell you, that's incredible. That's just insanely incredible. But what most people don't know, obviously, yet, is that the reason and the way I met you is I was at a conference, right? So I didn't get to shake your hand, but as soon as I saw you come out on that stage and you had Let's Get It Started playing and Dance Party up on the, and that was speaking my language because that's the way I like to start my day. So you had everybody up and dancing, and I was texting people, my friends and my fiance. I was like, this is the best way to start a day. I need to start every day this way. So thank you, Floyd, for doing that for me.
I'm so happy to hear that. That literally warms my heart and my spirit. So thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. So before we get into all the phenomenal things you're doing right now, I always like to go back a little bit, talk about who Floyd was growing up.
Wild and had a lot going on as I do today. It's so funny because I feel like a lot of my story, I've mentioned this before, but I feel like a lot of my story stems from before I was even born. So my family is from Sierra Leone. My parents and two eldest brothers were born in Sierra Leone, and I always remember going back to the country. We used to go back every other Christmas and spend some time there. And my father is an entrepreneur there. And I would remember waking up early in the morning and seeing a long list of people, a long line of people outside of our house, because my father would employ them and actually give them jobs and opportunities. And that was like my first time, starting to understand that, you can do well and do good, right? You can do well and you can make an impact in the community. You can do well and also, leave a legacy in your community. And I think that I always grew up with that understanding. Every time we go back to Sierra Leone as well, my aunt used to always organize a Christmas give back. So we would actually go around on Christmas and give food out to people and give out presents and whatnot to people who were unhoused, and really just continue to foster community. And that's something that I just grew up around. That's something that was a part of my DNA. Also, it's so interesting because I do have a background in theater and the arts. I actually went to school for music. Fun fact, I had a music scholarship. I performed around the world. I've toured with Kirk Franklin and a lot of different things. And so it was so funny because I had so many different pieces of my life, right? Like giving back and working in nonprofit and music in the arts. And I just wanted to find ways that I could bring those together. I wanted to find ways where I could, be my most authentic self while also helping others become their most authentic self. And it's so funny that you mentioned that talk because I feel like, when I'm able to speak, because now speaking as a part of my career, I feel like it's me just being able to bring every aspect of myself to life and help other change makers do the same.
That's amazing. You know, now I'm learning as I'm learning about you, we have certain things in common. So I think I mentioned that I also started and run a nonprofit on the other part-time of my life. And it's all about funding children who cannot afford to take lessons in the performing arts,
Oh my
dance,
God,
acting,
how
singing, and
fun. How
instrumental music.
fun. I love it.
So what would you say that gave you? Being in the arts, what does the arts, would you say, give to people?
Oh God, music gives me everything. It's my life. It's like my heartbeat, It's something that it's an outlet also. I feel like when I was younger, it's so funny because I grew up in a predominantly white community. And some of my best friends, actually my best friend is from that community. We grew up together across the street. But I would be lying if I would say there wasn't microaggressions. I'd be lying if I said that there wasn't times where we felt othered, right? Like I remember my parents' dream house being vandalized. I remember the first time I ever heard the N-word was when I was in the third grade and the kid stood up and said it to me at the cafeteria. I remember the first time I heard about slavery was when my second grade teacher said that slavery was when people who looked like Floyd came to America, right? Like these were actual formative parts of my life and my upbringing. And so one thing I've had to learn, as I gotten older is dichotomy exists, right? There's no black and white. There are lots of shades of gray. And so I had to learn that and navigate that. But music was always my outlet. It was like always my saving grace because I never felt like I fit in, right? And so music was the thing that actually gave me an outlet to be myself, to actually build community. Even when I didn't feel like I was a part of any other group, I always felt like I belonged there. And also another thing that I always say to people is that the music will welcome you, right? Like when you find your music, when you find your outlet, when you find your artistic outlet, that's the thing that will make you feel at home when you don't feel like you have a home anywhere else. And
Right.
so I think that was like my driving force and got me
Mhm.
on this path of what community is and means and why it's so important. Because I'm like, I want everyone to feel like they're at home.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's exactly what happens to the kids in our programming, and that's why it's vital. And you would never think, right? I don't think you see where your trajectory is going when you're even in
Right.
your early 20s. Did you have a
Right.
plan of what you really wanted to be when you grew up?
Oh, child. I don't think I would ever written down fundraiser on there.
Nobody does. I swear nobody does that.
Exactly. And it's just so funny because I saw elements of it. I saw glimpses. I call them glimpses of glory, but I never would have known I would be doing what I'm doing today. I thought, when I was younger, I thought it would just be music, or I thought it would just be, something in the business world or something. I had no idea though. Actually, I double majored in international affairs and music because I thought I was going to be a diplomat. And then I worked in government for a little bit and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. Like my first internship was in the government and I was like, yeah, this is not gonna be for me. But I would say anybody listening to this, especially other change makers, it's okay if you don't know what you want to be 10 years down from the road right now, Follow your curiosity and ask yourself, what does my heart want right now? What does my heart want and need right now in this moment? Because I promise you, if you start practicing listening to your heart, you will live into what your heart desires. You will live into the fullness of your heart, right? But in order to live in fullness, you have to listen in the here and now.
Oh my gosh, so beautifully put. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I like that. I wrote this down. Glimpses of glory and follow
Mm,
your curiosity. So
mm,
it's really wonderful mantras, that's for sure. Really
mm.
great. So what happened after you did your internship? You didn't want to go there. What was the next part of your journey after that?
Yeah, next part of my journey, such a good question, was then I think I went to after my first internship, I decided to volunteer for a nonprofit, which actually led to my first job. I was actually hired by the internship that I took, and it was working with youth. in between, so let me actually give you another background. So my first foray into fundraising before we even get there was I volunteered for alternative spring break. So alternative spring break is a program, a lot of colleges have it, where during spring break, instead of like going to party, you're going to somewhere to do service work. And the first place that I ever went to was New Orleans. So we went to New Orleans and we volunteered with Habitat for Humanity, helped rebuild some houses. But in that process, you have to fundraise to get there. And that was like my first time actually learning what fundraising actually looked like. That led me to leading my own alternative spring break to the Gullah Geechee Nation. So the Gullah Geechee Nation is from Charleston, South Carolina to Charleston, Florida. A lot of people don't know about the Gullah Nation for a lot of different reasons. We don't have time to get into that. But as I mentioned, my family's from Freetown, Sierra Leone. So a lot of people in the Gullah Nation were actually slaves. Like a lot of people came from West Africa in the Gullah Nation area. So they actually have their own different dialect and whatnot. I got to meet Queen Quet and work directly with her. And so and I fundraised both times. We fundraised both times to give money to the organization that we were working with, but also to get there. And that started me on my path of there's power in this collective action. Fundraising for me is so much more than the money. I always say it's about more than the donation. I'm giving a talk. I'm giving a talk in a couple of months at the Nonprofit Marketing Summit and talking about how do we go beyond the donation, right? It's more than that, right? It's about collective action. It's about community impact. And so that then got me my first internship at an organization. I learned what does it look to fundraise institutionally, right? What does it look like to fundraise for an organization that did a lot of arts and mental health work in Washington, D.C. And then one more fun fact that actually led me to South Africa and working with an organization in South Africa. And that was a youth organization. Every single morning, they would like sing songs. They would do art therapy. They wouldn't call it art therapy, but that's what they were doing. And then I helped them with their tour that they came and organized to America, which raised over $300,000 to keep their center going. And then it was that moment that I was like, okay, this is like my field. This is what I'm doing. And I started operating from that space.
That is incredible and totally incredible story. And it is true what you said. I don't think a lot of people wake up going, you know what? Be a fundraiser when I grow up. I just recently spoke to a group of high school seniors and I said, how many of you are thinking about going into nonprofit? Not one person raised their hand.
And this is what you and we were just talking about before this. And this is why I feel such a burden. If we are not intentional about how we are showing up in this space, we are just going to continue sticking with the operations of old. I was just watching Uncharitable, the film Uncharitable. I'm not sure if you've seen it. But it's talking about how nonprofits, if they ever want to invest in overhead, then they are demonized, right? And they're
Yes.
casted out. How can we be innovative if we don't invest in overhead? How can we be innovative and attract the best talent if we're not doing marketing, if we're not actually, competing in the marketplace, right? And it's so funny because they had a line that will forever grip me, that it's like, we're losing people who want to do good, they want to do impactful work, but they're going to get paid much more in a for-profit context, in a for-profit setting. So they would rather go to a for-profit, make more money, become a high donor at the nonprofit, and then now they're become a philanthropist, right? And so now they're
Yes.
paying the salaries of the people who decided to go into this space. That is a broken system. It's a broken model, and we have to be the ones that change it on its head. And that's why I've created things like Back Black that's why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, because how are we going to become the next generation of this space? How are we going to usher in the next generation of this industry? How are we going to encourage young people who are graduating from college who want to go into social impact and say, I want a career here, but it's not sustainable. No, it is sustainable. And we have to be the ones to make it sustainable.
100%. It's reteaching
Mm,
those who are out there who are giving the dollars and refocusing them that we can't do the work without being paid for it. We all have to eat. And it
right,
doesn't make sense why the CEO of a nonprofit and the CEO of a for-profit what is the difference in the work? The
right,
work,
right.
it's so meaningful every single day. We're not selling widgets. We're trying in many cases to save lives,
A hundred
and I
percent.
hate to
A
be
hundred
that
percent.
way,
A hundred
but
percent. I think a
it's the
big
truth.
thing too is understanding, and I always say this to organizations, you have to also understand what your value is. A lot of times organizations come with their hands out, but I'm like, it's not a hand out, it's a hand up, right?
Yes.
Organizations, companies, corporations. That's the reason why I was able to get Whole Foods. The reason why I was able to get Nike. The reason why I've been able to get Visa is because they see the value in the people that we have, right? If you as an organization don't understand your value, how is anybody else going to see your value?
Oh, that is so true. And I also want to make another statement here that I think is important too. Is today is the day. We collect dollars through a magazine, as I mentioned to you earlier, and I on purpose wanted to do this because I thought it was super important that we would give out two $1,000 grants, one nationally and one internationally,
Mm,
to a nonprofit in need. And we had a committee, and the reason I bring this up is sometimes it doesn't always have to be $50 million or 10,000 or 20,000.
mhm,
You can make an impact with
mhm,
$1,000 if that's what you have. And some
mhm,
people, I think, hold on, don't, that's not enough, so I'm not going to give it.
mm.
There, that's not exactly also the other part of that mindset. If you don't have a big enough dollar, then don't give anything. No, whatever you do matters and makes a difference. And I saw my $1,000 help women out in Uganda change their
Mm,
lives and be able to get jobs by being trained on how to do hair and
mm,
and support their children because the dads are not there. And
mm.
so those are the types of things that I don't think people understand, that you can give a small amount and still make a major difference.
I always say do your best. If you do your best, imagine like you are living your life doing your best. Imagine if everyone was like that.
What does that mean to someone who may be listening? Do what they can. What is your
Yeah,
definition of that?
I always say you have to operate from the place that you are in, right here, right now. I always say this, every single aspect of my life, every level of growth, every lever of growth has happened because I have done what I could do in my sphere. I always say bloom where you are planted. Bloom where you are planted. You couldn't help where you were born. You couldn't help, where you have to grow up, but you can help what you do with what you have. You know what I'm saying? So do your best. If you do your best, I do my best, and everyone around us just does their best. Imagine what the world would look like. Imagine what the world would look like. So just do your best where you are. And it's enough.
100%. I love that. Everything. I'm writing things down as you talk because I just love all these mantras. Um, let's talk about how Give Butter came about.
Mm.
Mm.
So it's so funny. I was employee number 6 at Give Butter. And I went to school with Max, the founder, and the founders. We went to GW in DC. And it's so funny because I was a fundraiser at the time for an organization that has now gone and really excelled and has been so incredible. But I was looking to, how can I had been working with organizations one-to-one, and I was thinking to myself, how do I help organizations on a macro level? How can I take all the years of experience that I have and maximize it? And it's just so funny because they were kind of looking at the same time for something similar. I still have the DM to this day that I sent to our CEO. I literally DM'd him on LinkedIn, and I was like, I think you need me, essentially. And the rest is kind of history. We've grown so much. I love Max. I love his vision. I love him as a founder, and I love being able to build this alongside him. And I love all the people that we've been able to impact. I've seen countless stories. I just got an email the other day from a nonprofit that I remember talking to when they were just getting started. They raised over $2 million. And it's all through the power of collective impact and collective action. So it's been so beautiful to witness.
So tell us what Give Butter does a little bit more so people understand. And then you keep saying collective impact, and I want people to understand that definition as well. I think it's very important.
Yeah, so Giveter is a completely free fundraising platform. We are a peer-to-peer fundraising platform. Well, actually, now we're a end-to-end fundraising solution. So we started off being able to help people with their fundraising events, especially during the pandemic. You could do live stream fundraising on our platform, use Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Pay, all the different things. But now we also have donation forms that you can embed on your website. We have a CRM on our platform, so you can actually know who your donors are and dive deeper into the transactions and actually build a plan around it. And then we also have something called Engage, so you can send text messages and emails all on our platform. We have a card reader, we have an app. The list of things really goes on and on. But the reason why I keep bringing up collective action is because fundraising is about people. Fundraising is about way more than the funds. I always say if you only want a donation, then a donation is all you're going to get. And anybody can get a donation, but you're not building for donations, you're building for believers. Any mission that you have, any cause that you have, any campaign that you run, it's about who believes in what I am building and who wants to go with me. And Give Better makes it very easy for everyday change makers to find their people and fund and fuel their mission.
It's it's amazing and incredible. And so I work in the different things that I do with some larger and some smaller nonprofits in my role as CEO for a business organization. And I know that so many are trying to figure out their plan as the world is a little bit interesting right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what advice do you have for some of those smaller nonprofits that they're trying to grow, they're struggling? How do they tell their story better? Just overall, what would you tell them?
Everything starts with alignment. I always say alignment determines your assignment, period. Alignment determines your assignment. And a lot of times organizations aren't growing. Yes, it's a knowledge gap. Yes, it's about resources. Yes, it's about capacity. But a lot of times you don't know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, how are you ever going to get there? Stop for a second. Get yourself out of the rat race. Get yourself out of the comparison trap and understand who were you created to be. What problem was your organization created to solve? Who were you called to serve? Ask these deeper questions first and then go. People got programs for days, child. Programs for days, events for days. And I'm like, who are you actually trying to serve here? Who are you trying to serve? And then the next question is, who are you, after you try to ask yourself, who are you trying to serve? Who is going to go alongside me? Who is going to come with me? Who's it going to, because you can't do it by yourself. I would say if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go together. That's why we created Back Black. The only way that Back Black was able to raise $1.3 million in 4 weeks is because we had a community of people, an industry that answered a call to do something different, to go further, to go and be better, right? And anytime I do anything, I always ask myself, who's coming on board? Ever since I started in this game, right? Who is coming on board? Who's coming with me? That is how you succeed, and that is how you continue to go and move forward. If you just ask yourself that question, what is my mission? Who am I meant to serve? And who's coming with me? Ciao, the things you'll be able to do.
I know. Oh my gosh. Yes. I just want to take you everywhere with me, Floyd, so you can talk to everyone. I'll just stand there. And because you're just incredible messaging. Um, but I really want to talk about it. You just started at Back Black, right? It's
Yeah.
literally very new, 2023, a
Mhm.
multi-platform initiative that has raised over 1.3 million. So talk to us about this, because this is incredible and amazing, and it has supported 770 Black-led nonprofits.
Mm.
It's amazing in such a short time what you have done.
Thank you. It's like what we have done. It's been so powerful. So a couple years ago, I know and have been connected with the founder of Black Philanthropy Month in August. So for any of your listeners who don't know, Black Philanthropy Month is in August, as well as Black Business Month. And at Give Butter a couple years ago, I started an initiative for Black Philanthropy Month when we were able to donate $10,000 to Black-led nonprofits and give them tools and help them get started. And we expanded it in our second year. But this year in particular, I was invited to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Greater Giving Summit in the spring. And it was my first time being able to, be in the room with a lot of other industry leaders. And we heard stories from actual organizations who were on the ground as well. And that's another thing. As a quick aside, are you in
Yes.
the trenches with your people? A lot of times we have organizations that we're launching and things that we're doing, and you have no idea what's going on with your people. When was the last time that you actually were proximate to the problem that you're trying to serve? I am a Black fundraiser. I have seen, and I have dealt with, I have been through how hard it is to actually fundraise and sustain what I'm trying to do. So when I started Back Black, when I got involved with Black Philanthropy, it wasn't just something that I pulled off the shelf. It's something that I lived, right? And I said, I know and I see firsthand organizations that are struggling. They don't have the organization, they don't have the education, the resources. They're not as close and connected to other people who can help them go to the next level. And I said, well, how do we lower this gap? On average, Black-led nonprofits, their revenues are 75% less than white-led nonprofits. We see this gap happening all in every single sector, in every single industry, and it's even more exacerbated in the nonprofit sector because everything is in the nonprofit sector. How do we turn this reality on its head? I'm so inspired by things like Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday was the reason why I launched my first ever peer-to-peer campaign. Okay, my first ever peer-to-peer campaign was because of Giving Tuesday, and I saw how my goal was to raise $5,000 for that first campaign. We were able to get our organization together. I don't know if we were going to raise $5,000 or $500, child, but I asked everyone to get involved. I asked them to change their profile picture. I asked them to share the campaign. That year, we ended up raising $30,000 on Giving Tuesday. And I was like, this is powerful. This is special because it's not about me, it's about we. And I asked myself, how do we do something different and specifically for Black-led nonprofits? And so I was invited to that conference, and what we did was we got all other industry partners involved, not just GiveButter, but Global Giving and Giving Gap, and just so many different other, or Grapevine, all decided to get involved. And so many organizations made their own donations, promoted it in their own way, and that's how we were able to make such a big impact in such a short amount of time. And 2024, child, we're doing it even bigger.
So you launched this on your own?
Child, no, I didn't launch anything on my own. Yes, I was the pioneer for it. Yes, I had the vision for it. But the only way that it was able to succeed was by inviting other people into it. So yes, if we talk about, am I the founder? Yes, I am the founder of the organization. But the reason why it's successful, just like the reason why Giving Tuesday is successful, is because every partner, every platform, people are deciding to be a part of it. You know, I realized that a lot of this work was kind of happening, but it never lived under an umbrella. It never was centralized, and now we have a centralized location. If you go to backblackmovement.org, or if you search us online under Back Black Movement, you will now be able to see, if you want to give Black, how can you do it? If you want to give to a Black-led nonprofit, how can you do it? If you're a partner or a company or a corporate partner that wants to get involved and make an impact, how can you do it? Well, we're the centralized location to make that happen.
So you talk about the we, and I love that so much. I'm all about that. And I just want you to go back to that first conversation you had with if you can remember, or a conversation when that moment, that idea hit you, because right, we come up with these ideas that we all feel so strongly about, like I did with Changemakers. What was that first conversation when you were sharing? And was there a go-to person that you thought of you wanted to have that conversation with to share that message?
Good question. Well, this was actually birthed in urgency because we, at the Greater Giving Summit, we had a panel with other industry platforms. And so we were all kind of talking, and everyone was kind of saying similar things, right? Like, how do platforms, optimize for equity, right? Because right now, platforms, we don't do that, right? We're just built to accomplish a mission, right? Like helping nonprofits fundraise more. However, technology is colorblind, but the people necessarily leading aren't, right? If you're optimizing for capitalism, you're focused on how do we get the most amount of money in our platform, right? Because that's how we make money. And a lot of times we have winners and losers in philanthropy. Whether we like it or not, there are winners and losers in philanthropy. We know who gets the money and who doesn't get the number. The numbers don't lie. Go to backblackmovement.org. We break it down in the facts, okay? And so we were talking about that. How do you optimize for equity? We were talking about those questions in the room, and I said, you know what? I know how. I don't have a perfect solution, but I have a solution, and let's make this happen. And so after that, the weeks following that summit and that conference, I was actually having conversations with platforms. I was having conversations with leaders. And the thing that was so incredibly beautiful was how quickly people mobilized. We organized this campaign in 5 weeks.
So when you have determination and a passion, anything is possible.
Anything is possible. You have to say yes to your life, though. If you're listening to this and you're a change maker, you have to say yes to your life. I didn't wake up and raise $1.3 million. I have been fundraising for years. I have been saying yes to my life. When I couldn't figure it out in elementary school, child, I started singing, and I organized an event that way. In high school, I remember I organized something called Unity Day. That was my first time bringing an entire the whole school together. And we sang songs and we played videos and got everybody on one accord. So this thread of my life has been weaving together. It's been weaving together. There's no way, I'm telling you, there is no way I could have stood up in that room and had the authority to speak from my experience that I wouldn't have had experience. But I kept saying yes at every single intersection of my life. I said yes. And my question, and I tell people all the time, when you say yes to your life, watch how your life says yes to you. But my question is, will you say yes? Or will fear drown you out? Will anxiety drown you out? Will your circumstances drown you out? No, you can do it. You can do it. You just have to allow yourself to say yes and take one step at a time. I used to be afraid of my voice. Now this voice, like I mentioned, has been on tour around the world. I sang with Kirk Franklin. I performed at the Kennedy Center. I sang at the Apollo here in New York, right? This voice is the top voice on LinkedIn. I've gone viral on TikTok, but I kept saying yes.
Oh my gosh, there's so much in there I want to talk about because that is exactly right. Because we are born into learning about judgment.
Mm,
Judgment is the thing that holds so many of us back. We are
mm,
not born with judgment. It's
mm-hmm.
a learned behavior.
100%.
And because of that, we stop ourselves short
Mm.
when we're afraid that people will look at us in a way where we're a failure
And
or feel like a failure.
who is not being served because you are afraid of being seen? Who is not being served because you are afraid of being seen? That's the question. We focus so much attention and energy on ourselves. And am I happy? And no, but a fulfilled life and a change maker, a true change maker is focusing on how am I solving problems? How am I healing wounds? How am I adding value? That's how you find fulfillment. Fulfillment is not just on checking every box that you have for yourself. Fulfillment looks like how am I checking somebody else's box? How am I making sure somebody else can stand stronger? How am I making sure someone can stand up and see another day? That's what fulfillment is.
Yes, because the thing about it is when you talk about the I, that's all ego.
Come on.
And we have to release the ego and
Mm,
allow ourselves to be a we.
mm.
And that's how together we just build this community. And everything you're saying is so valuable and important. And I know people are listening and want to learn more. Where can they find out more about you? I know you gave us your black background,
Yes, you can find
LinkedIn,
me
right?
on all the platforms at the Floyd Jones or go to floydjones.co and you will see all the things on how to get in contact with me and how to work with me and all the things. This is so good. I feel fired up. Okay. I feel fired up on this Friday. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to build a movement because that is what we need. We need people saying yes. If you have any takeaway today, today is the day to say yes. Come on, somebody.
That's right. And that's the name of the show too. I
Amen.
just have a few, few more really quick questions. Mentors for you.
Ooh, oh God. So many. One, I would look at Max, the CEO of GitButter, as a mentor. I look at Mark, who's the VP of customer experience at GitButter, as a mentor. I working with Connor Beaton. He runs a company called Man Talks. I love him. He's like such a mentor and inspiration to me. Oh gosh, so many people. Even people who I don't know proximately. I love that people like Lewis Howes and Jay Shetty online. I look at them. Um, I would say mentors are anybody who you can learn something and glean something from and who inspire you, whether you're proximate to them or not. Because I know some of your people are international and they might be saying, how do I find some of these people? You find them by researching them, reading the stories of their lives. I read this quote that said, success leaves crumbs, right? There's always going to be pieces behind them. Follow those pieces, right? Because those pieces will lead to your masterpiece.
Mm. You are so good with this stuff. And when I listened to you, I wrote so many notes that day. You had all these great things up on the screens. It was amazing.
Good.
What about resources? Any resources that you suggest for people to look at, read, TED Talk, anything you can think of, book?
Ooh, I'm reading a book right now called The Garden Within by Dr. Anita Phillips, and that's all about understanding your emotional proclivities and having emotional awareness. Because a lot of times as change makers, another big thing is a lot of times we cancel out our emotions, right? And that's how compassion fatigue happens, right? And so I'm loving that book. I finished reading what is it called? What's that habits book, child?
I don't know.
The Habits book. Everyone talks about it. The famous Habits
Oh,
book.
now I'm
Atomic
looking.
Habits. Atomic
Okay.
Habits. Read that one. That's a good one as well by James Clear. What else? What other good resources? If you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm always sharing a lot on LinkedIn from things that I'm picking up and things that are really supporting me and helping me. So follow me there. I'm drawing a blank right now, but follow me on LinkedIn because
Okay.
I will definitely keep posting.
So you shared a story in at the event about something that you had been through.
Mm,
And
mhm.
and a couple of things that it taught you. And I just, the personal development part of Changemakers is really important to me. And in brief, if you feel comfortable, I'd love for you to share a little bit about that and just what it taught you, because those who are listening may be going through things that are just really hard and they want to do change making work, but they have to go through a little bit of a transition at
Mm.
first in order to get
Come on,
there.
somebody, come on, somebody. So I'm actually working through a talk right now. I'm giving you all the tea. I'm working through a talk right now, because it makes me understand the arc of transformation. And in order to get to transformation, let me pull this up. It's on my phone. I always keep a little app, a notes app, because I'm always working on a talk or always working on some kind of content. And in order to transform, first of all, you have to try. So you have to get started. You're going to go through a trial. You're going to go through transition. And then if you persist, you will get to triumph.
Mm,
Okay? That's the only way that you're going to actually flourish in transformation, right? And in
that's right.
order to get to all those different pieces, starts with knowing your story. And so the story that you're alluding to was I actually tore my meniscus and dislocated my knee. I was in Lake Tahoe thinking that I was somebody that I wasn't, child, running and jumping off of boats, going on these little hikes. And it took me out. I was on bed rest for 3 months, and then I was on crutches right after that. And y'all, crutches in New York City is not cute. Okay, the rats laughing at you, you falling over on the steps in the subway. It's a trial. It's a trial. Okay. But come on, trial. What does that lead out to? Transition and transformation and triumph. Okay. Because afterwards, a friend of mine passed away,
Mhm.
and so we were asked to run a 10K in his honor. And I was like, I don't run. Like, y'all heard me in the beginning of this. I'm a singer, okay? I was always in choir. Thank you. But I decided to do it. I decided to run 6.2 miles, and it was hard. I went through some, because when you're running and anytime you're trying to do something new, you have to understand that old parts of you have to break away. When you think about a rocket ship, right? When you're thinking about a rocket ship entering into the next level of the atmosphere, the different things have to fall off that rocket ship so it can fly. But the falling process is not easy. Nobody wants to talk about the falling. You just want to talk about flying. You want to talk about flying. You don't want to talk about the things that have to fall first. Okay. And so in my process of running, I was tired. It was not easy. I was exhausted. I wanted to quit. And another thing I learned every time I was running, I would compare myself to other runners and my pace would slow down. But I kept going. I kept putting one foot in front of the other. I started off with, can I run 5 minutes? I might not be able to run 6 miles, but can I run 6 minutes, child? And then I ended up running that 6 minutes. And the 6 minutes led to 10 minutes. And then led to a mile. And then to 2 miles and led to 3 miles. And y'all, not only did I run those 6.2 miles, I ended up getting a personal record. On my actual run day, I was running 8 minute miles, 9 minute miles, and I got to the promised land. I got to my triumph place. Okay. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. I don't care where you are. I don't care what you're facing. You could be down in the dumps. I promise you, I have been there before. Okay. My first job out of college, I was making $18,000 in Washington, D.C. I stood in the grocery store and cried because I was like, I can't afford anything right now. I cannot afford anything right now. Now I'm in a place where I'm making more money than I ever have in my life. And guess why? Guess how? It's through helping other people. It's because I put one foot in front of the other and I didn't give up. I didn't quit. I said that there is something greater in front of me than the things that have been behind me. Okay. Stay focused on your mission, because your mission is going to lead to your momentum, and your momentum is going to lead you to your miracle.
Goodness. I can't imagine you in bed for 3 months with your energy. That had to be torture.
It was torture. It was torture.
Oh my goodness. Well, now all that pent up energy is still
It's
coming out,
right. It's
right?
coming out. It's coming out.
Oh my gosh, Floyd, I could talk to you forever, and I can tell you that I would love to have you back to give us an update as to what's going on. Give Butter, how do people find Give Butter?
At givebutter, givebutter.com. As you can see, a lot of these things are very easy. I'm at the
Yes.
Floyd Jones, at givebutter, at back black. Like, you'll find us.
Oh yes, that's very, very easy. And I found you easily. So that was amazing because I didn't get to talk to you at the summit. So I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. So my last question, well, before I go to my last question, is there anything else you want to talk about or any other message that you feel strongly you want to share with my audience?
I am just super excited. Also, if you go to my website and you join my mailing list, I'm so excited because this year I have a few launches and fun things planned. So come to my website and sign up for my mailing list and just stay connected. I'm only as strong. We're a team. We are a global team, and in a team, you're only as strong as the weakest member. So when you win, I win. So come along this journey. Let's do this thing together. Let's actually be a community of change makers and watch how the world will change because we are.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the Changemaker community. So strong and so supportive of each other. It's incredible and amazing. My last question to you is, what is the legacy you want to leave behind?
Ooh, glory. I've been thinking a lot about this recently. And I was saying to myself, my parents are getting older. And I'm like, what? When I'm like, 80, 85, 90, when I'm sitting and reflecting on my life, like what do I want to say? And the first word that comes to me is joy. I want to leave a
Mm.
legacy of joy for myself, but I also want other people to find their joy. And I want to be talking about the impact that we've been able to have in the world and how many people are now able to live into their purpose because I lived into mine. So I think about that often.
It's beautiful. So many messages here. So, I loved the one, if you can re-say it one more time, was something about going fast by yourself.
Oh yeah, if you want to go fast, the African proverb. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, I'm going to remember that, as so
Good.
many of the ones that I wrote down. So thank you for sharing just your beautiful insight, your vision, your heart. It's, we just need more people to live in their power, and it's nice to watch people do that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Jody.
No, no problem. So again, please follow Floyd Jones. He told you all the places you can do that, and I'm so honored to have interviewed you, and I look forward to continuing this a new friendship that we have
Yes.
formulated over change making. Who knew, right? So I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small or large step are you taking today to get yourself closer to your goals? Have a great week, everyone. Thank you, Floyd.
Thank you.